My name is Cheryl Pemberton. I'm with the Mid-Continent Public Library, and I'm glad that you could join us this evening. I do have just a couple of housekeeping announcements before we turn our program over to the presenter. If you could keep your mic muted throughout the program, just make a more pleasant viewing experience for everyone. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. And then at the end of the program, Lindsey will answer as many as possible as time allows. And then I have a survey. If you've done our virtual programs, you know about our surveys. So I'm going to put it in at the beginning of the program in the chat. And if you want, you can open up the link and have it ready, or and I will put it in the chat at the end of the program. So I'm going to go ahead and turn over the program to Lindsey Moore. She's a nurse educator with the North Kansas City Hospital.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so I am one of the registered dietitians at North Kansas City Hospital, and I've been here about 3.5 years. And so I get to do a little bit of everything. I get to see some inpatients, outpatient counseling, and do some fun presentations like this. So today we are going to be talking about heart healthy nutrition and heart healthy cooking. And you will all be getting this PowerPoint after today. So there's a lot of links and just a good resource for all this information. This will all be getting emailed out to you all. So let's dive in. So these are our two main objectives that we're going to be hitting on today. We're going to discuss the evidence-based nutrition recommendations to reduce the risk of heart disease and adapt a heart-healthy lifestyle. And then we're going to learn how to prepare heart-healthy meals and snacks for the whole entire family and for all different types of cooking styles. So to really kickstart the conversation about nutrition and heart health, I feel like it was important to talk about what heart disease is and what heart health is. So heart disease is just another word for cardiovascular disease, and it's an all-encompassing term for the different diseases affecting the heart and the blood vessels. So some types of heart disease include stroke, heart attack, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart failure, coronary artery disease, and many more. There's a lot of different types of heart diseases. And if you're wanting kind of more information on those, then you can always check out the American Heart Association, and it has explanations of all the different types, but it's just kind of that all-encompassing term. And then when it comes to risk factors, for heart disease, there's several health conditions. Our lifestyle, age, family history can increase the risk of heart disease. Some risk factors cannot be controlled, but you can take the steps to lower your risk by changing the risk factors you can control. So some of the ones we cannot control are our age and our genetics. And what it means by age is that as we naturally get older, it just naturally increases the risk of heart disease. And our genetics, we can't change our genes, but managing certain health conditions in our lifestyle, those are some controllable things we can do. And when I say health conditions, diabetes, obesity, having these or more can increase the risk. A diet high in saturated fats, trans fats, and simple carbohydrates. And we're going to talk a lot more about, what to eat. Physical inactivity, tobacco use such as cigarettes, nicotine products, and excessive alcohol intake. And excessive alcohol intake means more than 2 glasses for men a day or more than 1 glass for women a day. So we want to do 1 glass or less for women and 2 glasses or less for men a day. And that's considered 5 ounces of wine, 12 ounces of beer, or 1.5 ounces of liquor. So with heart healthy eating, adopting a heart healthy lifestyle can reduce your risk, but also help manage all the different types of heart diseases and other heart conditions, and other health conditions. So it's not that what we're talking about today is only good for the heart. It's really good for the whole entire body. It's going to be good for prediabetes, diabetes, obesity, inflammatory conditions like fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis. It's really just kind of general balanced eating for everyone, ages 2 and up. So to really start with the basics of nutrition, we have 3 main food groups in our diet. We have our carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And macronutrients are nutrients in food that provide us with essential calories and energy that we need to function on a day-to-day basis. More specifically, protein is going to come from your meat, fish, eggs, dairy products, beans, nuts, seeds, nut butters, which would be like peanut butters, almond butters. And we do need protein in our diet. It's required for tissue repair, building lean muscle mass, immune system function, keeping you full and satisfied throughout the day, and so on and so forth. Pretty much protein's the basic building blocks for everything in our body. So it does a lot for us. And then we have our fats, which would be like oils, butters, margarines, salad dressings, nuts, seeds, avocados. We do need fat because it's a slow burning source of energy, and we need it to absorb all those important vitamins and minerals. And it's also going to keep you full throughout the day. And then with carbohydrates, this comes from your bread, rice, pasta, all of your fruits, milk, yogurt, beans, and then your 3 starchy vegetables, potatoes, corn, and peas, and like a lot of your sweet and snack foods. But we need carbohydrates. The primary function is to provide energy for the body, especially the brain and the nervous system. Your brain can only function off carbohydrates. I know there's a lot of misinformation out there on the internet, and but we'll be kind of, really going through a lot of those things today as well. But it's really important to note that each of these macronutrients or each of these food groups really does serve an important purpose. We need all 3 of these guys in our diet. And any eating plan out there or any diet that eliminates one of these is not a good sustainable eating plan. And that's a goal for today too, is we want to figure out, what we can do nutrition wise that is going to be good for our heart, but that we can also enjoy and sustain lifelong. And anything in excess does get stored as fat. So yeah, if we do too many carbs, that'll get stored as fat. But same goes for too much fat, and even too much protein gets stored as fat. So it's kind of moderation of all foods is key. But we'll talk a lot more about portions. So within the macronutrients, there's different types of proteins. So we want to focus more on our lean proteins, which would be 90% lean beef or higher, or just get the cheaper option at the grocery store, like the 80-20, and just drain the fat. Your skinless chicken, pork chops, pork loins, turkey, fish, seafood, eggs. Fun fact, eggs do not raise your cholesterol. I know that was something that we were told for years of don't eat eggs, it's going to increase your cholesterol, but not true. Great source of protein. So if you enjoy eggs, boiled eggs, have 2 to 3 of them. We want to trim the visible fat around your meats, choosing more of those round and loin cuts. So red meat's perfectly still heart healthy, just doing like more of a pork loin, a pork chop, a sirloin, beef round, tenderloin. Those cuts of meat are going to have a lot less of that saturated fat. And we'll talk about saturated fat a little bit more, but saturated fat in large amounts can increase the risk of heart disease and increase our cholesterol. But if you're not a big meat person, or you're just looking up to vary your proteins a little bit, just so you don't always get burned out on chicken and fish, there's a lot of great plant-based protein options as well. And they often tend to be a lot cheaper, like your beans, lentils, soy products like tofu, tempeh, edamame, nut seeds, nut butters like those peanut butters, almond butters, chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, quinoa will all give you protein as well. We do want to limit your intake of processed meats. The word says limit, not avoid. So there's no food you have to cut out of your diet to be heart healthy. It's just maybe smaller portions less often, focusing on what foods we can add in versus take away. But the processed meats in large amounts, like your deli meats, bacon, bologna, sausage, hot dogs, turkey sausage, those are just higher in those saturated fats and can increase the risk of heart disease. So with your proteins, but with kind of all foods, just trying to do more of your lean cooking methods, like bake, broil, grill, steam, poach, and limit like your deep fat frying. A lot of people say like they will fry things on the stove with like, olive oil on their stovetop in a pan. That type of frying is fine. It's just like the deep fat frying, like breaded things. And then with types of fats, the types of fats we want to limit are your saturated fats and trans fats, because it's these guys that increase the risk of heart disease. A good way I like to remember this by is anything solid at room temp. That's kind of how it sits in your arteries. So butters, margarines, coconut oil, whole fat dairy, and those high fat meats we just talked about. Coconut oil is the only oil I would say would be in the limit category, just because it is a saturated fat and that's solid at room temp. Anything about like your bacon fat solidifies at room temp, your butter. But again, just limit. And then try to do more of your unsaturated fats. These are going to help reduce the risk of heart disease, more anti-inflammatory, and these are generally liquid at room temp. So think about all of your other oils, like olive oil, avocado oil, peanut oil, canola oil. Those are all liquid, so they flow right through those arteries. But then all of your nuts and seeds, peanut butters, almond butters, avocados also fall under these unsaturated, more heart healthy fats. The recommendation for dairy is doing more of your lower fat dairy, like 1% skim, milk, low fat yogurt, low fat cottage cheese. When we get so nitpicky with all of our cheeses, choosing between cheddar, Swiss, Parmesan, mozzarella, it's all kind of the same because your lowest fat cheese will be your highest salt and vice versa. So it's a great source of protein, taste bud preference on the type of cheese, just kind of back to the moderation of all foods. Just don't overdo it because it is a saturated fat. But I want to talk about oils a little bit more because this is always a hot topic. Lots of questions on, well, what types of oil should I use? What part of the answer has to do with the smoke point. So the smoke point is the temperature that a fat begins to smoke. And we want to avoid this because it can produce toxic compounds, bitter flavors, can destroy those essential nutrients that we need from our fat foods. The stovetop temperatures rarely exceeds 350, but this temperature can be exceeded with other cooking techniques like baking and grilling and frying. So avocado oil doesn't produce a smoke point until 500. So avocado oil does really well at high cooking temps. So does peanut oil. It's around 450. Canola oil 400 to 450. Vegetable oil around 400. And olive oil smokes at about 375. So olive oil does have a lower smoke point than avocado oil. So I highlighted avocado oil and olive oil because those are kind of more of your heart healthier fats. Or all of these are fine to use, but just those avocado oils and olive oils have a little extra heart protection to them. So I typically tell people day-to-day cooking with either or are both great. It just depends what temperatures you're cooking at. So if you're cooking something in the oven at 425, I would probably use an avocado oil. But if you're, stovetop or cooking something in the oven at 350, just use like an olive oil. I do like olive oil because it tends to be a little bit cheaper, but it really, both are great. Just, the smoke point is the difference. And down there in the bottom of the picture, you can see, you can buy your olive oil in the bottle. You can also buy it like your PAM sprays, those aerosol sprays, avocado and olive oil in both options. And then to talk a little bit more about carbohydrates, we want to do more of your complex carbs. These would be your whole wheat, whole grain options, beans, legumes, all the fruits and those starchy vegetables. So those peas, corn, potatoes. These guys just have a lot more vitamins, minerals, fiber to keep you full. We want to limit more of those simple carbs like your juice, sugar, candy, white breads, white pastas. They're just more processed, not as much nutrients as those complex carbs, and which that fiber can kind of help lower cholesterol and just protect heart health a little bit more. But really the key with carbohydrates, kind of said it a couple times, but moderation is kind of really what it breaks down to. So if you're watching your blood sugars, if you're trying to lose weight, if you're just trying to have better energy levels, we want to eat carbs, we just don't want to overdo it. So getting carbs each time you eat, just kind of those smaller portions. But all those other vegetables besides your peas, corn, potatoes, those are called your non-starchy vegetables. And these do not have any carbohydrates. They're just more packed full of, they're more water-based, lots more vitamins, minerals, fiber, great in keeping you full. So we're not only filling up on carbohydrates. The list is endless here. So that's why I say anything besides those peas, corn, potatoes fall under this category. Like your lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, broccoli, spinach, carrots, bell peppers, zucchini, mushrooms, so on and so forth. Green beans, asparagus, okra. So anywhere you can add more of your non-starchy vegetables in, the better. I've mentioned fiber quite a bit, and that's because fiber just does so many things for us. It's going to help lower our LDL cholesterol, which if you've gotten your cholesterol blood work done before, this is deemed your bad cholesterol because this guy in large amounts can build up plaque in our arteries. Fiber is also going to help lower our blood pressure, promote bowel regularity, balances blood sugars, keeps us full, and helps with weight loss. So with all that being said, we want to choose higher fiber foods frequently, which really come from a lot of our carbohydrates. Those whole wheat, whole grain options, beans, legumes, all the fruits, but then both the starchy and the non-starchy vegetables are all a great source of fiber. You don't have to count your fiber. If you're curious on what you should be shooting towards, it's about 35 grams for men and 25 grams for women a day. But when you really look at, how much people consume of fiber, this is a lot of fiber. So if you're interested in eating more fiber, do not just start eating really high fiber starting tomorrow. Gradually increase it over time, drink more water, add some movement or activity in. Just because if we increase it all at once, it can kind of give us some gas and bloating and just don't feel the best. Picking whole grains. I want to talk about this because it is very confusing. If you ever go down the grain aisle, it's, well, what's actually a whole wheat? What's actually a whole grain? What product should I be choosing? And so the word whole wheat and whole grain is the same exact thing. Those words get used interchangeably. Those are both going to be those complex carbs. But when you're looking at like bread or rice or English muffin or crackers, you want to look at the ingredients. So the first ingredient should be whole wheat or whole grain. You do not want the first ingredient to say enriched or refined. That would just mean it's a white bread or a white pasta. This can be confusing because one of the ingredients can say refined whole wheat. So it's like, whoa, what is this again? So you can always look at the fiber content. So if it has 2 grams or more fiber per serving, that would be a whole wheat, whole grain. Or if it has 0 to 1, that's a good indicator that it's a white bread. But you don't have to make everything a whole wheat, whole grain. You're more than welcome to. It's not going to hurt anything. But the nutrition guideline is to make half your grains whole grain. So as long as you're doing like brown rice, you can do white bread. It's just that 50-50, give or take. If you want to do quinoa and white rice, there's that 50-50. But I want to show you guys some examples so you kind of know what to look out in the grocery store. I'm picking on Sara Lee a little bit. It's a great brand, but it's something a lot of people are familiar with. So Sara Lee has a honey wheat bread. And this is where it gets really confusing because they're throwing the word wheat in there. But that first ingredient, I circled it in red. It says enriched. So back to that, the word enriched or refined is going to mean a white product. And then to confirm, it only has 1 gram of fiber. So this Sara Lee honey wheat would actually be considered a white bread. Still a great option to choose. It just wouldn't count towards those whole grains. But then Sara Lee makes a 100% whole wheat. But you can look at the ingredients. It says whole wheat. And then fiber, we got 2 grams of fiber. So those are kind of what to look at if you're looking at a food label. Because they make a lot of multi-grain breads and they make a lot of 7-grain, 12-grain, and some of those are actually white breads. So just to get, don't look at the front, just look at the back because marketing is going to be very confusing. So the other really important component of heart health is sodium, salt, same thing. We do need salt. Sodium is an electrolyte we need to live. It's regulated by your kidneys, helps control your body's fluid balance, and it aids in nerve impulses and muscle function. It's just, it's possible to have too much of a good thing. So it's just too much salt isn't great for our heart. So eating less sodium can reduce your risk of high blood pressure, fluid retention, so just making us hold on to water. A lot of people kind of hold on to fluid in their feet, their legs, if they have any heart conditions, just heart disease in general, stroke, kidney issues, osteoporosis, and cancer. It's more than just heart health that the body benefits from having less sodium. There are a couple of cases where people do need to be on a high salt diet, so always talk to your doctor first in that sense. But we do want to limit sodium to about 2,000 milligrams a day. This sounds like a high number, but a tiny little teaspoon has 2,300 milligrams of sodium in it. And even those who do not add salt to their foods still may take in far too much sodium in the processed foods. So we'll kind of look at food labels a little bit. You don't have to count your salt, just if you're curious, just by limiting sodium. That's a great option as well. So just some tips to reduce sodium intake. Try to avoid adding salt at the table and trying to limit it during cooking. And just some of our foods that already have salt in them would be like highly processed foods, because anything processed, salt's going to add flavor and preserve it. A lot of our processed meats, so not only is it high in saturated fat, it's also pretty high in sodium, like your lunch meats, cured smoked meats, salami, bologna, bacon, sausage, ham, hot dogs, so on and so forth. Any of like those prepackaged frozen TV dinners, we'll talk more about frozen foods, but not all frozen products, frozen foods are high salt. It's just those pre-made dinners. Trying to limit those. And then a lot of like our canned foods and canned soups. Trying to limit eating out can help reduce sodium. Because if you were to make the exact same thing at home, it's going to have a lot less salt, just because they're just really adding it in there to preserve and add the flavor. Choosing your fresh, frozen, or no salt added canned vegetables. Choosing your low sodium options of food products, and we're going to talk a lot more about these. But all of your fruits and vegetables are great for you. Really, the key is just getting a variety in, and that can be fresh, frozen, or canned. All of it's nutritious. So you can either rinse your vegetables off with water to get the salt off if you don't have, if there's not the no salt added option, or just take your, or you can buy that no salt added option. So despite the misleading advertisements, sea salt, Himalayan salt, those all contain the same amount of salt as your regular table salt. And it's not a healthy, or it's not a good substitute. So I know like all of our tortilla chips, all of our chocolate candies, all of these products are getting advertised, made with sea salt in big bolded letters. It tastes delicious, but salt to the body, unfortunately. So with that being said, I don't want you to lack the flavor of your foods. I still want you to enjoy foods and enjoy all this seasonings, but just using more of your herbs and spices in place of salt for flavoring. So this could be like onion powder, garlic powder, basil, pepper, cinnamon, paprika, dill seasoning. Any of those herbs and spices are great. A lot of like products like Mrs. Dash, McCormick's, your off-brand at any grocery store, they make a lot of great salt-free seasoning blends. But my little tip with this is you want to add like Mrs. Dash or any of these dehydrated products to your chicken or to your vegetables and then cook it or then reheat it. Because if you make your vegetables and then you add it at the end, it's just going to fall right off and you won't get any flavor. So it needs the moisture from the oils. It needs the moisture from the cooking to really enhance those flavors. Or you can always try a squeeze of fresh citrus like lemon or lime. This is my favorite thing to do. I love to do lemon on like asparagus or lemon on a lot of my fish, because fish is kind of one of the ones we need a little bit more stronger flavor than sometimes just those seasoning blends. So using more of the like the fresh garlic too. Those are gonna, and fresh onion, bring out a lot of flavor. If you want to look at a nutrition facts label to really know if it's a good low sodium option, you want to look at two different places, that serving size up top and that sodium in the milligrams. I would not recommend looking at the percent. It's the milligrams that typically are most helpful. Fun fact, serving size is not portion size. So there's a lot of great tools out there that exist to kind of help us control our portions, and we'll talk about some today. But serving size is just how they did the math. So this example says we have 2/3 cup. It has 160 milligrams of sodium. If you want to double that, just double your sodium. Or if you want to half that, you don't have to eat the 2/3 cup. So just kind of know you can double, triple serving sizes. You can have them, just kind of making the numbers work. But in terms of sodium, anything less than 140 milligrams per serving is considered low sodium. Anything less than 35 is considered very low sodium. Anything less than 5 grams is considered sodium free. But the problem is when you look at the front of a package, it'll get advertised as reduced sodium, less sodium, lower sodium. And they've taken 25% out, which means it may be low sodium, but it may not be. They're taking some out, which is great, but it may not be quite less than that 140. So like this product here, it's not low sodium, pretty close, but you still have 2,000 to use for a whole entire day. So it's not that you have to make everything a low sodium product. So some people like to divide that 2,000 by however many times they eat in a day. So some people like to stick to about 400 to 600 milligrams for a meal and about a less than 140 for a snack. But if you know you're going to eat out at dinner and it's going to be a pretty salty dinner, just cut back earlier on in the day and you can kind of play that give and take with the salt. So just to kind of give you some more like product ideas or just kind of what, just to, you know, practice looking at some food labels a little bit. Soup, you know, with canned foods, you can rinse off your canned green beans, you can rinse off your canned corn to get the salt off, but you know, soups, or like sauces, you can't really rinse the salt out of those. So there's a lot, you know, just those canned foods are going to be pretty salty, but they have some really great low sodium options in terms of chicken stock, chicken broth, same thing with the beef and the vegetable broth and stocks. So looking at this product, it says no salt added advertised at the top, which sounds great, but just for clarification, because I'm not going to trust the marketing on the front, just to see what it really says in terms of sodium. So we got 1 serving size is a cup, and there's about 4 cups in this whole container. And for a cup, it's only 110 milligrams of salt. So this no salt added chicken stock would be a really great option to kind of make more of a soup or if you want to add this into cooking. They make no salt added, they make like 50% lower sodium chicken stocks, and they make like the regular salted version. So if you just kind of want to know where you're at, just flip over that food label. Nuts is another common high salted item, but we can easily make it some healthy swaps. So we got 20 pieces of cashews. It only has 35 milligrams of sodium, and this is a lightly salted version. And we just have to be careful because that lightly salted is not necessarily low sodium. It just happens to be low sodium. So they make, you know, there's no salt added nuts. They make these lightly salted ones. So just kind of looking at the back of the food labels there. And tortilla chips is another common salted product. So this has 50% less sodium. So it just happens to be a low sodium product as well. But that serving size is 7 chips. I'm going to have way more than 7 chips. But good news is we can have more than 7 chips and still be in the lower sodium. Because if we had 14 chips, it's only 110 milligrams of sodium. So they do make a lot of products out there. You just kind of have to look at those labels. But just because it's prepackaged doesn't mean you can't have it. And then we got some green beans. So when you're looking at these no salt added canned vegetables, you can see right there in the sodium, it says undrained 10 milligrams. If you drain it, 0 milligrams. So these really are pretty, and that 5 milligrams or less is considered no salt, because anything less than 5 is not a significant amount to count towards anything. So just how much, much lower sodium these products are, but still quick, easy, convenient. So now that we really dug deep into the types of carbs, types of proteins, types of fats, and the salt, you know, now that that's great, but it's, well, what can I eat from this? Or how can I build balanced meals and snacks? What can I eat on a day-to-day basis with this information? And so really the key to what to eat for meal snacks is to kind of eat a variety of foods at meal and snack times. So we want to make sure we're eating a high fiber carbohydrate with a lean protein source, or we're getting a high fiber carbohydrate with one of those unsaturated fats. So it's really important how we put foods together, not just only eat carbs at breakfast and only eat protein at lunch. Kind of get the combo, because carbs are great. They're going to give you energy, but carbs don't keep you full. Within an hour or two, we're going to be starving. And then protein's going to keep you full, but it's not going to give you energy. So just kind of for better energy levels, better blood sugar control, keeping you full, just kind of getting those types of foods together. And we're going to talk a lot more about how to do this. And then just kind of ask yourself, how could I add a fruit or how could I add a vegetable to this meal or a snack just to get the extra fiber in there? But then timing of meals too. So it's not a black and white answer if you have to eat this many times a day. It can be however many meals, however many snacks. We just want to eat about every 2 to 5-ish hours during the day, because whenever we go longer than 5 hours without eating, we tend to overeat. Your body's just gone so long without energy and fuel. And if we don't fuel your body enough during the day, your body tries to play catch up at night. But you do want to give our body about a 2-hour break after eating just to kind of digest everything we just ate. So listen to your body and body's hunger fullness cues. If you're hungry, I want you to eat. That's your body physically telling you you need energy. But if you're full, you don't have to eat or you don't have to finish that meal. So not always your body's going to produce those hunger fullness cues, whether it's certain medical conditions or whether it's a crazy busy work day and your body hasn't been able to produce those. So it's really, I encourage people, use the balance of the two. I want you to listen to your body, but do keep in mind that if we go longer than 5 hours without eating, maybe throw in a meal or throw in a snack. So for some people, this does look like 3 meals and no snacks, but it can be like 2 meals, 2 snacks, 3 meals, 3 snacks, 4 moderately sized meals. So it's really completely up to you. Because the goal is we want to fuel and nourish the body. We can't just not eat. If we don't eat enough, we need food to function. So it's, well, what kind of more nourishing things can we put in our body? Plus, we often tend to eat faster and more when we're super hungry, because that's the body's biological normal responses. You got to eat. So portion wise, you can use those hunger fullness cues. Let the hunger fullness cues decide what you feel like eating, how much you feel like eating, and when you feel like eating. But the plate method is also a good tool in this sense as well. You just kind of eyeball about 1/4 of your plate to be those carb containing foods to give you that energy. And then 1/4 of your plate would be protein, keep you full, maintain that muscle mass. And then the other half can be any of those non-starchy vegetables. Your plate does not need to look like this every day all the time. But it's just kind of a good reminder to balance your foods out. One tool for portion sizes. But how I tell people to use this, because reality is a lot of our foods are mixed together. If I'm having chili or tacos or a stir fry or a casserole, I'm not going to take my foods and section it off like this. So as long as that food has all those components, it can be mixed together. And if you're hungry, it's okay to go back for seconds. But if you're full, you don't have to finish. Because like a chili has all those components. So you don't need to section off your meat and your beans and your veggies. So finally, those snack ideas. And again, you're going to be getting this emailed out to you. Change all this up to what you like more specifically. But just some ideas on how to get carbohydrates with the protein or carbohydrates with the fat. It could be like some rice cake with some almond butter, apple and cheese, or apple and peanut butter, cottage cheese and peaches, or cottage cheese and tomatoes, cottage cheese and pineapple, banana and peanut butter, toast and avocado, a trail mix, maybe like cashews and dried cranberries, edamame, hard-boiled egg and mandarin orange, some yogurt and some berries, yogurt and blueberries, yogurt and raspberries, like a beef stick and dried mango, hummus and bell peppers, carrots and guacamole. You can even do like pretzels and peanut butter. So, not to just, do a piece of fruit or not to just only do some nuts, kind of put those two together to balance out those meals and snacks for you. And then I have linked a bunch of websites to check out for more recipes. We're going to go through some recipe today, but just for endless resources, they have 5-minute recipes, but then there's also holiday style, spend hours in your kitchen if you want type of recipes, just kind of for all those different cooking styles. And the thing is, these are all by registered dietitians, so they're kind of a good, credible, trusted resource out there on the internet. So I want to talk about just how can we make some of these healthy choices quick, easy, convenient. So some people like to cook, some people, I need the quick, easy, grab and go, and all are great. So really the mindset I want you guys to have when you're thinking quick, easy, convenient is knowing that fresh, frozen, and canned are all nutritious. With the canned, we just may need to do the no salt added or rinse off those veggies, or getting like the canned in water for your fruit. But really, so these are kind of some examples on how we can make all these quick, easy, convenient, and nutritious. All those 5-minute steamable veggies. So like if you go to the frozen section, there's like your 5-minute steamable broccoli. They have, like your corn, your peas. So any of those 5-minute steamable veggies are great. Any of your frozen fruit, you can always put this in yogurt, oatmeal smoothies. all those frozen protein options. So, your chicken breast, those beef patties, frozen shrimp, tilapia, salmon patties, so on and so forth. In the frozen meal category, we do want to limit frozen meals, but kind of the healthiest option out there that promotes lower sodium, balancing out those meals, is called Healthy Choice. Healthy Choice makes a max option. So it's called Healthy Choice Max. And I really like these because it's a whole entire meal. The one downside of most frozen meals is it's like a snack. There's not enough substance to them. And that's what the Healthy Choice, the not max options, you would want to add to it. So I know they have like a beef and broccoli option. So kind of going back to that plate method of, okay, I got my protein, I got my veggies, how can I add a carb to this meal? So you can do frozen meals, just make sure you're still adding in those other components to make it more of a filling meal, because I'm going to be starving if I just eat a tiny little thing. But the max options, that's actually a whole meal, which is really nice. Those salad bags, salad little kits, where it's like the pre-made dressings, little, nuts, fruits that you add to it in that salad bag. Just dump it in a bowl, mix it, and there's your veggie in a couple minutes. Pre-sliced fruits and vegetables. In your produce section, they'll have, your fruits, your veggies already sliced. So when you get home, you can just go ahead and eat it or go ahead and straight cook it. So it saves a lot of that prep time in the kitchen. So any of the canned products as well. So they make canned beans, kidney beans, black beans, navy beans, all those canned fruits and vegetables, canned tuna, canned chicken, canned salmon. They make the 7-minute instant brown rice, the 5-minute instant white rice. It doesn't have to be waiting 30 minutes on the stovetop for your rice to cook. And then any of the unsweetened dried fruits. You got to be careful because they do make sweetened dried fruits. So just watching out for a little bit of those added sugars. But yeah, I would say, so knowing it doesn't always have to be fresh. There's a lot of great nutritious frozen and canned options as well. Meal prepping. So some people love meal prepping. Some people do not like it whatsoever, but this is one option. The process of planning and preparing meals or recipes, that then portioning it into containers to create grab and go meals. Meal prepping is great because it's convenient, efficient, and reduces food waste. It reduces the temptation to eat out of your eating plan and just allows you to have healthy home cooked meals without having to cook every day. So this can kind of be one great option to help you incorporate a lot of these things. So a little bit more information on how to even get started with meal prepping. Scheduling a time. So just pick one day of the week where you have 15 minutes to a couple hours in the kitchen. For most people, this happens to be a Saturday and Sunday, but if it's a Wednesday because you have some free time, it doesn't have to be a weekend. And meal prepping doesn't have to be prepping your breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner for 7 days a week. It can be prepping 3 breakfast just for that week, and that's it. So starting small, choosing one meal instead of maybe going, guns a-blazing into all 3 meals. But I tell people, if you cook dinner one night and you take your leftovers for lunch, I consider that meal prepping. So whether it's just when you are cooking, you're just making larger batches at once, so you can kind of have those grab and go healthy meals, that'd be something to consider. But if you are going to meal prep, just look at the number of servings for each recipe, so you know how much you want to make and how much your recipe will make. And then making sure you're having those food storage containers. But you really can meal prep any recipe. And a lot of those websites that has a section on how to meal prep and some recipes that go really well for that. But for the people that aren't a big fan of meal prep, whether it's you don't like leftovers or it's just too much time in the kitchen, batch cooking is a really great option. It's a form of meal prepping in a way. So batch cooking is making big batches of food or ingredients that you can use as components in future meals. So this would be like cooking large amounts of chicken all at once, and that's all you do. You don't do the chicken, the rice, the broccoli. You just cook a lot of chicken, and then you can use it in different ways throughout the week. So maybe Monday you want to make chicken tacos, and the next day you're going to make chicken and rice, and then the next day you want to do a chicken salad, or you want to make like a chicken soup. So it's using one main ingredient in different recipes. And so down below you see those are all 3 different meal options, but they all used some sort of like brown rice or like a couscous or something. And so I actually did that with chicken this week. I just made a bunch of chicken. I didn't want to make my veggies and my carbohydrates with it. I just made a bunch of chicken at once, and we'll just, portion it as we want throughout the week. So this does reduce leftover and meal prep burnout, reduces the time in the kitchen and dishes used. Because if I was going to cook chicken every day, I would have to get out my cutting board, get out my knife, do that, clean all my dishes again. And so now I just use my cutting board, my knife, and my, cooking pans only one time instead of 5 times. Which that's why I love it the most, is less dishes I have to do. And you get to enjoy a variety of foods. But just also some tips in the kitchen for how to just prepare certain things. So roasting vegetables, if you don't like a certain fruit or vegetable, we can only try it so many ways before you don't have to eat it. But just some kind of tips for roasting vegetables to make them tasty, using an oven or an air fryer. Don't skip on the oil. So a lot of times I'll see, cooking videos or people put a sheet pan of Brussels sprouts and they'll just take their olive oil bottle and just drizzle on it. Well, we don't want to do this, because then some of your vegetables are soaked in olive oil and others are going to be completely dry. So make sure you, put your vegetables in a bowl, drizzle them with whatever oil, mix it together, to give it that even glossy coating. So they're all going to cook the same way. Or when I'm lazy, I just take my sheet pan and I don't want to waste a bowl, and I douse that pan spray, or I douse that olive oil spray on my sheet pan. That's also another way I like to do it. But you want to make sure they all have that even glossy coating. Give it some flavor, season it with any herbs and spices you like. A good starting out point is just some garlic and black pepper. Lemon, Mrs. Dash, any of those salt-free seasoning blends. And give them some space. You don't want them to be stacked up on top of each other just because they're not going to cook evenly. And roast until you see some toast. You want a little bit of those black charred bits, and you want to be able to pierce your vegetables with a fork to make sure it's cooked all the way through. So look up a recipe. Like I always look up, carrots in an air fryer or carrots in the oven, just to see what my oven temp should be and how long to put it in the oven or the air fryer for. So you guys can go directly into these links, but just to kind of give you some direct meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, meal ideas. This can be a really fun one to meal prep. These egg muffin cups, all you need is a 12 container, like a cupcake sheet. And then all you do is pretty much you take some eggs, you whisk them together, add a little bit of milk, any vegetables you like, and some seasonings, and you pour them into those little cupcake containers and you roast them in the oven. And then you just have this quick, easy grab and go protein source. So just making sure you serve it with some whole grain toast or some fruit just to get those carbs in it as well. But you can freeze these, create that quick, easy grab and go, whether it's with your lunches or your breakfast, protein and vegetables. In this recipe, it says do like 4 eggs whites and 4 regular eggs. Just use the whole entire egg to reduce food waste, and it's going to give you a little bit more protein by using the whole entire eggs anyway. But you can use any vegetables that you like. I like to use mushrooms, spinach. You can do broccoli, tomatoes, onions. Can't go wrong. And then in the recipe, it says to saute them before you put them in here, just to save cooking time in the kitchen. I chop my raw vegetables and put them in the muffin tins. If you're not a really big fan of crunchy vegetables or just a little bit of crunch to your veggies, maybe I would saute them so they're a little bit more soft and tender. There's a lot of great oatmeal bake options. Whether you just want to make oatmeal in the morning, or if you want to meal prep, make a big entire oatmeal bake, and then you just kind of cut off a couple squares and that's your breakfast throughout the week. And I'm always getting questions between what types of oats to use. Steel cut, old-fashioned oats, quick oats. It's all the same. They're all great high fiber carbohydrate source, so taste bud preference. But these oatmeal bakes are pretty fun. This is a pumpkin pecan oatmeal bake. If you're not a nut person in your foods, you can either opt out of that and maybe put some peanut butter on top. but just make it, or you want to serve with a side of scrambled eggs. But the key about oatmeal is making sure you're still getting some protein in there just to kind of keep you full and satisfied. 5-minute salmon salad. You can also use canned chicken, canned tuna, just, can make a little tuna salad out of it. So I love this one. It's just really quick and easy. Whether you make a single portion or you want to make a couple days worth. The way I like to do it to limit the salt is use a bunch of dill seasoning. So I'll just do a little bit of mayo, mustard, and dill, whether it's canned. I do mainly canned chicken and tuna would be a good one for this. And yeah, even the canned salmon. So dill is a really great way to bring out flavor in this without having to add salt. Or you can, as you can see, they use some lemon. But with this, we don't want to just eat the canned protein. We want to make sure you're still getting all the components of a balanced meal with it. So you can make this a sandwich, 2 slices of whole grain bread, put this on top. If you want to add some, kind of keeping in mind, how could I add a fruit or vegetable to this? Maybe you add a slice of tomato, cucumber, or lettuce on that sandwich. Or if you want to use it as a dip, you can take some bell peppers, some carrots, some celery, any of those raw veggies, and dip and enjoy that, the tuna or the chicken or the salmon. And you can always do like a side of fruit just to get those carbohydrates in there as well. So just a lot of ideas. And then a summer quinoa salad, wishful thinking, almost kind of close to summer. Tomorrow's March, so that's something. But this is a really fun recipe to enjoy quinoa. I feel like a lot of people, have never tried quinoa, or they don't know what to do with quinoa. Use it as you would rice, pretty much. But quinoa is really good hot and really good cold. And this is just a fun, light summer recipe that you're getting whole grains, you're getting a lot of fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, great protein in the nuts. You can use it as a meal or you can use it as a fun appetizer. So good recipe for cold quinoa. Beef and vegetable meatballs. I would highly recommend this recipe for anyone who struggles to enjoy the taste of vegetables, or if you have any kiddos that really just refuse to eat vegetables, because this is how I got my brother to eat vegetables for the first time. And so this is why I love this recipe. But it's pretty simple. All you do is you take a pound of ground turkey, a pound of ground beef, put it in a bowl, and then you take like a zucchini or any vegetable with like a grater, and you just grate it over the bowl. A little bit of salt, pepper, garlic, and just mix it together. I would recommend mixing it with your hands. I know it's kind of weird. Just wash your hands with hot soap and water. But if you use a spoon, you can't really get all the ingredients mixed together that well. You're still going to have chunks of beef and chunks of zucchini. So kind of get in there, use it with your hands, and then just roll it into meatballs and bake it in your oven. In the recipe, it says half a zucchini. I'm not just going to use half a zucchini, because then I'll have half a zucchini go in the fridge for a couple days and then end up in the trash. So the more vegetables to use, the better. So I just use the whole zucchini. You can do squash, you can do carrots, broccoli in this as well. And then you can make like spaghetti and meatballs out of this. So you get some whole wheat pasta, get some marinara sauce and meatballs, and then have a little bit of veggies in those meatballs. If you want a little extra veggies, you can always do like a side salad or a little salad kit as well with it. But this is a fun recipe. And this is a sheet pan meal. So there's a lot of sheet pan meals out there. Sheet pan meals are fun because you just put your whole entire meal on a sheet pan, a baking sheet, and you pop it in the oven. You're not having to cook your chicken on the stove top, something in the microwave, something in the oven. You just put, it has the onions, the asparagus, the sweet potatoes, and the salmon all on one baking sheet. So if you're wanting this kind of style of recipe, just look up sheet pan meals. But you could also do chicken. You could do regular roasted potatoes instead of sweet potatoes. Because honestly, all the potatoes are just as nutritious. Sweet potatoes aren't any drastically better than like your Yukon or your golden potatoes. And then, so just kind of to kind of wrap things up and just being overall heart healthy, nutritious, balanced meals, just making sure you stay plenty hydrated as well. It's going to help with our heart health, improve brain function, boost energy levels, balance blood sugars, relieve constipation, and so many other things. Our body needs water to function too. So if you feel like you struggle with water, not able to get enough water in, carrying a water bottle with you, using a straw, setting alarms on your phone just in the meantime, just to get you in that routine. But most people need about 64 ounces or 8 cups a day, unless you're on a fluid restriction by your doctor. But we really just want a light yellow urine color. So some people need more than this, some people don't need quite this much. And then if you're not a big water taste person, you can do Crystal Light powder. You can do the squeezable Crystal Light, Mio, Propel, Gatorade Zero, adding lemon to your water. Any of those carbonated waters out there on the market now, those are all great options to add a little bit enhancer, make it more enjoyable than just straight water. And exercise. So earlier we kind of talked about risk factors, and just being inactive can increase the risk of heart disease. So, nutrition is really important and it's great, but it's only, there's so many other things that impact our health as well. So the key with exercise exercise is a great way to manage stress, keep your mind and body feeling good. But I don't want you to think of exercise as a punishment for the foods that you ate, or give you permission to eat certain foods. Really, the goal with exercise is moving your body in a way that makes you feel good and can make you feel more positive about your health and reduce stress. And the way we want to think about it is movement. So a lot of people don't even say exercise or physical activity anymore. They kind of just say movement, because all movement's good movement. Whether it's in 5-minute increments, whether it's in 2-hour increments. Anytime you're moving your body, we just want it to be something you physically enjoy and mentally enjoy. Because you'll never find me running outside. That's just not my preferred way of getting movement. And I will go on long walks in the woods for hours on end, but running is not my thing. So just keeping in mind, all movement's good movement. So I tell people, chasing your kids around, this all counts. Whether it's yoga, walk, stretch, bike, yard work, water aerobics, online workout videos, parking further away from the grocery store, taking the stairs versus the elevator, stretchy bands, chair exercises, getting back into playing a sport and dancing. So all movement's good movement here. And two, to not only just think of exercise as kind of like, give yourself permission to or to not do things, but also there's so many benefits to exercise just besides weight, or just because our doctor told us to do so. It's going to help with our bone strength, our stress tolerance, decrease our blood pressure, reduces the risk for many types of chronic diseases, increase heart and lung strength, increase metabolism, better appetite regulation, improved mood and memory, better sleep at night, more energy, improved balance, which is essential as we age, just we're at more risk for falls, and lots of benefits. Okay, congratulations. You guys have made it to the end of this presentation. But here, so really in summary, these are kind of the main things I want you to, take with you today. Since you all are getting this PowerPoint email to you, I tell people to go home, ignore this for like a couple days, let all the information settle. It's a lot to take in at once. But the goal with all this is we want to create lifelong sustainable changes. Everyone's different in what works for them. We can't just shove everyone in the same bubble and tell them to do the same thing and expect the same results. So it's finding what works best for you. Remember grace and gratitude. We want to focus on progress, not perfection, because no one's perfect. We don't have to eat a perfect diet to be healthy, because it's what we eat consistently over time that matters. Most days, most often. And remember, change does occur slowly. It's never the answer anyone wants to hear, but gradual, slow changes, trial and error, that's what's key. And so setting small measurable goals that are practical for you can really help keep us on track and keep ourselves accountable with making these changes. So with that being said, a good place to start is setting 1 to 3 goals for yourself. When we do more than 3 things at once, it's just way too much to take on. So whatever that goal you're setting for yourself, make sure it's something you're adding into your routine, not something you're taking away, because we can't just not eat or not drink. So you don't make your goal, I'm not going to drink soda. Make it, I'm going to drink this instead. Or I'm going to add this with my snack, I'm not going to snack. And two, what's healthy for you is healthy for your whole family, ages 2 and up. So this is, it's good for the whole household, whether they want to do it or not, but healthy for everyone. So I'm going to take some questions now. I see we have a lot in the chat box, so I'm excited. So yeah, feel free to add some more in the chat box and we will go through these. So yeah, thank you everyone.
Okay, let's see. Why don't we just start at the top? Let's see. First one, question, what if you're a vegetarian? And I think this question was asked before you started talking about adding vegetables into your diet.
Yeah, so that slide, and yeah, you guys are all getting this about those plant-based proteins. So all of your beans, nuts, seeds, your quinoa, tempeh, tofu, edamame, definitely a lot of great plant-based sources of protein to make sure you're getting those things in. So yeah.
Here's the question. We have a question that's off topic. We will save that for last.
Okay.
Let's see. Any suggestion of a good pan that does not have toxic particles like ceramic or something?
A good pan. I'm gonna read the question too. Just like a cooking pan?
I think so. I think she's worried about toxicity from the
Here we
pan.
go.
Lindsay.
I'm sorry, not non-stick. I hear, we
Oh.
use an old Teflon pan and that's not real good. So my
Oh.
family's on to me to change and we
Yeah.
hear different kinds.
I haven't heard anything about it, so I would say just use whatever kind of cooking pans you can find. So yeah, I haven't heard anything in that front, honestly. So
Here's a good olive oil question. Olive oil comes in various types, i.e. extra virgin, virgin, pure, etc. Does it matter?
nope. Use whatever one you want to use.
I love that simple question, simple answer.
Nope.
Okay. Well, for whole grain, I'm gluten-free. Is that harder for me?
Me too. So yeah, I would say it is going to be a little bit harder, but like your quinoa is a great gluten-free whole grain. Getting like your gluten-free oats, so gluten-free oatmeal, doing like more of those potatoes, brown rice would be a great gluten-free whole grain. And then with gluten-free bread, just get whatever gluten-free bread you enjoy the taste of. Because at that point, I would rather you enjoy the taste. So yeah, just kind of getting those other types of whole grains in versus having to eat regular bread.
Okay. Where would I find wheat pasta?
In your regular aisle. So I know all these grocery stores have their different health sections, but really you can just shop in the regular aisles. So whenever you're in your pasta aisle, they'll have like, the special brand pasta, they'll have their off brand. It'll just say whole wheat pasta. Like I used to shop at a lot at Hy-Vee, so they had some pastas say whole wheat, some that say whole grain. I just got whatever was on sale. So it should be next to the regular pasta.
One person asked if there was a handout, and I will go ahead and answer that. Yes, it is. There is. I will try and I thought I could get it out tonight, but it probably won't be till tomorrow morning. And does adding vinegar to things cut fat, like dipping fried fish in malt vinegar?
So it doesn't really cut the fat. If you just want to add vinegar, just if you like the taste of those things, a lot of people like to add vinegar just because it adds a lot of flavor and reduces the salt, but it wouldn't necessarily cut the fat.
Okay. Will eating 8 olives a day help with heart health?
It's not going to hurt it. If anything, just watch the sodium on the olives. I don't know how much sodium is in 8 olives, but as long as you're just not overdoing the sodium, it's not going to probably drastically help anything, but it's not going to drastically hurt anything either. It's, not with like correlation of foods. It's not that if you eat blueberries, it's going to completely improve your memory, but it's not, eating a piece of pizza is going to completely raise your cholesterol. So it's, singling a food out like that isn't going to have these big cause and effect relationships.
And one question, will there be more webinars on this topic? I can't answer that. We do try to offer a lot of a variety of topics, including health. I don't know exactly how soon we'll be doing another heart health webinar though.
And if you are looking for, and that's something I forgot to mention, if you are looking for more like nutrition information in general, on this slide right here, you'll see my contact information. Call me, email me with any questions you have. Or if you would like to have a one-on-one appointment with a dietitian in person or telehealth, all you need is an order from your doctor and they can send that over to us. So that's also another way.
Now, I'm not sure what food they were talking about at the time. How can we make sure it is still good at the end of the week? And that was from Lori. Lori, what, if you're still logged in,
Oh, like just like meal prepping.
yeah, maybe, okay, that's.
Meal prepping.
Yeah.
Typically, if you look at the recipe, it'll tell you how long it's good for. If it smells good or doesn't have any mold on it, I think those are two good things.
The sniff
Does it
test.
taste good? Sniff test. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. A lot of nice compliments and thank yous. Okay. Talking or use in stuffed in celery. That must have been related to a specific recipe. Okay, here's one. Is imitation crab good instead of salmon?
I would be curious to see how much actual protein is in that. So, I mean, I'm sure you're fine to use it, just, making sure it's not crazy high on the salt. And if you're looking for a good protein source, I tell people a good protein source per meal or per snack is anywhere from 10 to 30 grams. So as long as you're within that window and you're getting protein, it's within your salt, go for it.
Okay. Let's see. I substitute lemon or lime juice for sour cream on baked potatoes. Learned this from street food in Mexico. That did sound interesting. Yeah.
I will have to try that. Yeah, thank you. I like
Okay. Are there any negative things about using straws like wrinkles and bloating? Maybe we hear pros and cons.
Yeah, no, this is true. So, when you're using a straw, the first thing that comes up out of a straw is air. So some people who've had like a weight loss procedure, like gastric bypass or a gastric sleeve, they do recommend people not using straws for that reason. But unless that, I'm not aware of any. So, I mean, if it's going to help you drink more water, use the straw.
Interesting. Okay. Let's see. Wonderful presentation. Thank you.
You're
Let's
welcome.
see. Oh, somebody cast iron. I think we were talking about the pan. Yeah,
Yeah.
somebody, yeah.
Cast iron's great. It's just heavy.
Okay. One person said I found low carb tortillas at Hy-Vee that are good. Okay.
Yeah. I tell people, if you want to use the lower carb options, that's perfectly fine. Or if you just want to use your regular whole wheat, whole grain and just, only do a couple of them, it's completely fine. So, there's a lot of great, a lot of branded health products to claim that they're good for heart health, diabetes. So you can use those products, or just buying your just general regular types of foods. It doesn't have to be advertised as heart healthy or diabetes friendly to have to buy it. So, but yeah, if that kind of helps you control your carbohydrates and enjoy more tortillas, perfect.
Okay, this one is off topic, so you may not feel comfortable answering that, but what type of food will help cancer to slow it down?
Oh, good question. So we did a presentation on cancer prevention and survivorship. And there's a lot of great, just other content. So if you go to just YouTube, and North Kansas City Hospital has a YouTube page, and we did a whole thing on cancer prevention and survivorship. And really what a lot of the things we talked about today is very similar to that. I would say one of the key things, it's kind of like what I was talking about earlier. There's not a food that causes cancer. There's not a food that can prevent cancer. So really just anywhere you can add a plant food in. So the more plant-based foods, the more antioxidants, phytochemicals, just things to break down inflammation and damage. So, and then red meat. So limit red meat to twice a week, even though like leaner cuts. So, and then try to avoid alcohol. But besides those a little bit more stricter guidelines, a lot of this information is very similar.
Oh, somebody commented 6 grams of protein in imitation crab.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Good to know.
I like this quote, this comment. I love salads and loading them with veggies, but I also have salad with my dressing. Any suggestions for healthy but tasty dressing recipes?
This is what I tell people. I say, focus on the positives. The fact that you're eating a salad, you're doing amazing. So, but no, in the grand scheme of things, you're doing great getting the salad. Do whatever salad dressing you prefer, honestly. Whether it's a little bit of Thousand Island ranch, more of those oil-based like vinaigrettes, maybe a little bit better. But I would say so with salads, great way to get veggies in, but salads by themselves aren't filling. So making sure you're getting some protein on your salads and still getting some carbohydrates, whether it's beans, peas, or corn or cranberries on your salad or having something on the side. But enjoy the salad dressings.
Will this recording be sent to the attendees? Actually, we're not sending the recording. but this will be put on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. I don't know exactly when it will hit YouTube though. So if I'm off for a couple days, so on Tuesday, I imagine it will be up, and I'll send out the link to everybody who's registered as soon as I'm back to work, and it's posted. Okay, is that all of our questions for tonight?
Wasn't there one at the beginning? You said
Let's
about,
see.
did I see something about diverticulitis? Okay.
Yeah, that I wasn't. Let's see.
I don't mind answering it
Okay.
if, okay.
Okay.
So can people with diverticulitis have nuts and seeds? Ooh, I love this question. So at one point we said people with diverticulitis couldn't do nuts or seeds because they would get stuck in those little pockets and cause issues. But what we've actually found is that's not necessarily true. But some people say they don't feel great after consuming them. So it's really individual based on how you feel. So if you feel good having like peanuts, almonds, things like that, go ahead and eat it. But some people say they still don't feel great. And then the second part of that said, but she also said to ask a dietitian since now they thought that they should be included since it's good fiber health benefits. So yeah, you're correct. No apologies. I love any and all questions.
Okay. I think we've got everything.
Oh, there was one more part, sorry. Any suggestions of a good pan? Oh, that was the pan. Okay. Sorry. I think that's all I saw.
Okay. Well, we had a lot of good questions tonight. I thank you all for putting these in the chat. I appreciate it, because I'm sure you're probably not the only one who had those questions. Okay, I think that's all that we have for tonight. Thank you so much, Lindsay. This was actually very interesting. I'm always looking for health topics. I want to say thank you all for joining us, and have a good evening. Good night, everyone.
Bye.